We need to say sorry to our mom because heaven is under your mom feet. But if you're married, heaven also under husband feet.
I think we saw in real time Tata realize that her emotional outbursts are going to sabotage her dream life in Indonesia. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We're here to discuss James and Tata in the latest episode of 90 Day Fiancé The Other Way. You guys, I honestly don't know when you're going to see this video. I don't feel well. I sound like this. I feel awful. But I want to keep up with the momentum of Tata and James' story along with another. So I want to kiki with you about it really fast. Before we do, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're new here, join me. But yeah. So we jump back in right where we left off with Tata crying at her mother's feet. As you guys recall, and I feel like many of us on the internet were very confused by this because it felt like it went from 0 to 100. James still doesn't know what's going on. He's just like, I thought we were fine. I've never seen her apologize in this way. Obviously, it's cultural, but like in 5 years, I've never seen it. And I know that to our parents, we're always going to be their children, but it's just so interesting the things that happen when you spend a lot of time with your parents. Like, you kind of revert back to those roles, and Tata is acting like an injured child right now, and her mother is comforting her, like caressing her face, her hair, telling her it's okay, and she's apologizing profusely. And I would love to know how you guys felt about this. I went back and forth on how I felt because of course you're never going to be too old to have your parents' support, but at the same time this is a conversation about you moving in with your husband in this adult relationship and then you're going to act like a child. I felt conflicted. I don't know if I feel conflicted if this was like the first time that we've seen her have an outburst, but because this is her default to have such strong reactions, I'm just like, when does it end? Aren't you tired? I hate that that's my reaction. I just think that it's so much. But then again, I'm not married to her. That's James's problem. But he looks a little scared too. And the mom is trying to affirm her, telling her that it's all good. She already has her forgiveness. And then the dad is like, yeah, you have your mom's forgiveness. Now it's time to ask your husband for forgiveness. And I went, and I'm just like, what is the need for this? This is also excessive. Because while I think that her reactions are a lot, this particular situation happened because he was incessantly nagging. But to have her apologize to him in this moment, I feel like is a choice. It's hilarious because while the dad is telling her all these things, she's still in front of her mom and you could see her kind of like disassociating. So at first I was like, oh, she's not gonna do it. She's gonna pretend she didn't hear him. But she eventually does go to him and like, it's like, I'm so sorry, you know, for whatever it is that I did. I think it's a translation issue. But she is just like begrudgingly apologizing to him and then kind of self-loathing, saying that she's not a good wife. And all of this feels like it's a ritual of sorts. It doesn't feel genuine to me. And even in that moment where like her dad was talking to her and she was talking to her mom, well, she was in front of her mom, it looked like she was in a trance or something. And I'm just like, either Tata is top tier manipulation queen or she really does feel everything at a crazy heightened state. Either one is unhinged to me. The dad continues saying that she should apologize to James because she should have been more patient with him. I think that that goes both ways. They both clearly needed to do a lot more communicating beforehand so that they could have been better prepared for this conversation. And even so, like, have the sense to be like, maybe let's table this conversation and not have a fight in front of your parents. And I think that Tata in this moment also thinks that they both should have had patience, but she's like, in my culture, we have to, you know, follow the men. This is where she mentions that the reason she was, kissing her mother's feet is that there's a saying, I may butcher it, but the saying is like, heaven is beneath your mother's feet. And so that's why she was asking for forgiveness in that way. But they also say that it's also below your husband's feet. She didn't kiss his feet, but she did apologize begrudgingly. And so after she gives her apologies, she continues hugging her parents, and they're like, we're going to take care of your dad. Like, it's fine. You're young, be free, be happy. And I think her parents are real ones. When I heard them doing this, I'm like, I would hope that they're offering because they have money saved up. I would hate to hear that they're now in the hole because they went out of their way to help them. Because they're adults, they need to figure it out. I'm not saying anyone is above getting their parents help. I just feel like that's a big ask. It shouldn't be their responsibility. However, they seem really unbothered with this decision. And what a blessing that is. But Tata's dad is like, yeah, don't worry about it. Be happy. Because now you get to focus on having healthy children. And you can see Tata again, like drinking water, checking out. And then when she translates it to James, she just says, oh yeah, he just wants us to be happy. Y'all are some liars, okay? First of all, Tata has told us that she wants children and that she knows from her friend that James doesn't want to have kids. I am honestly shocked that the many times that her parents have mentioned kids, she hasn't used it to guilt him. I'm just like, when are you going to have this conversation? Because it needs to happen. I'm just calling it out because they don't talk about it at all in this particular episode. So I'm just like, they're going to wait till the end and it's going to be madness. So as for James, he's very confused by all of this. And he's concerned because he believes that all of this escalated really quickly. And it's really funny, his lack of self-awareness. Like the fact that he doesn't realize that he played a huge part in setting this off. But a big concern for him is that this is only day 2 for him. He's like, is this what I can be expecting while living here? I don't know if I can handle being in the dark with every argument. And yeah, I feel that, but maybe that'll put some fire under his behind to learn the language and he won't be in the dark. He can put in his 2 cents. But the next time we see them, they're back in their hotel room and they're trying to debrief on what just happened. And the way that James is talking about it, it's almost like he's resentful that he didn't understand what was going on. And I'm like, how is that her fault? You couldn't pick up on the language, because when she was crying and things like that, she wasn't talking about James or to James. She was apologizing from her heart to her mother. I understand that that is startling. I understand that no one wants to be in the dark, but to make it like a pity party for you is not the direction that I would take this. And so Tata explains things from her perspective, that she felt like he was, applying pressure, and she felt like he was saying that she wasn't doing enough and she was doing exactly what he wanted. And he was like, no, I'm not putting pressure. And she's like, yes, you were. And you don't realize that I'm doing so much and that translating in itself is so complicated. He's upset because he felt like they didn't stick to the plan that they created that was led by her in its inception. So he did feel like she didn't do enough in the meeting. It can be argued either way. And so these two are talking in circles because I don't think they're really listening to each other. They just want to be right. But Tata's getting worked up again. Surprise. And I'm just exhausted watching her. Like, this whole ordeal is exhausting. How do they get through any conversation? James is like trying to get past her tears because otherwise they're not going to get anything done. And he's just like, we had a plan. He's like, I wanted us to reach our goal, and all of that happened, and we still don't know what we're going to do about the payment situation. Because as you guys recall, James wanted to get paid for the banana labor. He didn't feel comfortable accepting handouts from her parents. When he tells Tata, hey, we didn't solve the money situation, Tata's like, well, they're going to take care of it. And James is like, and we discussed that that's not what we want. I think the biggest part of this is that they want to be an independent couple, right? They don't want to be depending on her family for day-to-day spendings. Because, okay, they'll take care of the car debt, but they still need money to live. They need money for their expenses. And I highly doubt that the parents will then pay them for banana labor because they'll be like, well, we just gave you all this money for the car. Because if James accepts the money for the car and then asks for money for the labor, they're going to be like, wow, you're so ungrateful. You're so greedy. See how it's a slippery slope? And so Tata says that she did tell her parents that they didn't want the money. And I didn't see that ever in the scene. I don't know if I missed it. If you guys saw it, let me know. But when I heard her say that, I'm like, Tata's lying again. She did not tell them that. And I honestly don't know how James and Tata get anything done because they're very similar in the worst of ways. And so with this whole conversation with Tata and her parents, it's clear that even though she wants X, Y, and Z done, she is also uncomfortable with serious conversations, and she's also super uncomfortable with conversations where she is being asked to be accountable. And we've seen that a few times with James. I think that he has the same struggle as well, but that explodes. And I think that that is manipulative because she probably thinks if I explode, if I snap, then we're just going to switch the subject and I'm not the bad guy and you have to then coddle me. But she's the one that wanted this move, and moves come with a lot of transitions, and she's dealing with a husband who's not from here, and obviously there are going to be growing pains, and they're only going to make it through the growing pains if they handle it head on. Her having an outburst at every minor inconvenience is going to get old really fast. And James hits on this when James is like, if I ask you clarifying questions, you can't just lose it on me. Me asking you follow-up questions isn't applying pressure. It's me trying to get on the same page as you. And I share his sentiment. I understand it. I did think that in that moment in front of her parents, everything that he was saying could have been delivered much better. And he's the main one always being like, talk with love. He wasn't talking with love in front of her parents. He was applying pressure, and he was. What he was asking was important. The delivery was not. But yeah, I don't think he should be looked at as the enemy for asking her to stick to her word. But in every episode that we see, these two are like competing in the triggered Olympics. It's just like back and forth, back and forth. And she bursts and starts cursing at him. He's like, okay, well, I guess the conversation is over once you start cursing. She's like, yeah, it's over. I'm gonna go sleep at my mom and dad's house. And James looks visibly hurt, and he's like, so you're really just gonna leave me in a foreign country to your mommy and daddy? Like, the subtext of that moment was like, I left everyone and everything for you to come here, and you're gonna leave me on day 2? Like, that's the look that he gave her. And as he's talking to her, she's stonewalling him, just like looking in the distance, crying, and his words are just going over her head. And I'm like, if I were James, I'd be like, oh, the minute we landed here, any issue, any minor inconvenience between us, it's going to be broadcasted to everyone. It's going to be everyone against me. And she's going to just use her parents' home as an excuse to always leave. And that's that thing that I was talking about. Like, I get wanting the comfort of your family, but now you are a grown-ass woman in a marriage. Like, you have to act accordingly. Running at every minor inconvenience and abandoning your husband is not it. Sophie 2.0. And so she's looking away. Her face is red, tears flowing. I'm like, somebody get this girl some ibuprofen because she must have a headache. And so James ultimately is like, this is a lot. And if we're going to be like this, fighting then we can go back to the US because this is not what we came here for. And magically, reason has hit her body and she's talked off the ledge. She calms down and she like gives him a hug and like they're all made up. But I'm just like, for how long? She only calmed down because it hit her that if this continues, they're going to go back to the US and she doesn't want to go back. Because remember, this was her big scheme to say that she needed to go back to Indonesia because she was sick and then be cured the minute she lands. So she's a little shooketh that he mentioned coming back to the US so fast. But it's like, you gave him quite a show and it scared him. These two are so wild. I would love to know what you guys thought in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one.